Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Wednesday, the 18th of June. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
It's going fine, yeah. But Rangers transfer mania has clearly overtaken all of our life so much that I woke up this morning having dreamt that Sam Lammers was back at Rangers. So hoping that's not predicting the future. But yeah, that's the extent of my insight. And yeah, you any ex-Rangers players you were?
No, I never dreamed of Sam Lammers. I've got to say that is that caught me by surprise. But yeah, I get your point. Everyone is at fever pitch. Really, they want to see guys coming in and holding that scarf aloft. We've seen one yesterday with the arrival of Lyall Cameron. Certainly going by the comments just now that people are itching for more. But we'll get stuck into Lyall Cameron and more in just a mo. A quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust and proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years experience and their unparalleled quality. Their qualified team is dedicated to keeping customers happy and providing exceptional work, aiming to deliver nothing but perfection in every job they offer. Free consultations and also a 10% discount codes if you use Rangers Review on their website, which is willows-fencing.com. Right, where shall we start? Well, first of all, it is a Champions League draw time at, I think, around 11 a.m. Rangers will find out their opponents in the second qualifying round, where they could play one of three teams, namely Brann of Norway and Bergen, Servette of Switzerland, Rangers' old foes, of course, from a few years ago, and Panathinaikos, who they have come up against on a couple of occasions. If you look back to the Manchester run, and before that, when Emerson scored over there, Panathinaikos came over to Ibrox and won by 3-1 in a forgettable Champions League campaign. Of the three teams, Joshua asked Chris yesterday, I think he said that he would prefer Servette of the three possible opponents. Who would you pick if you could?
Well, I'd divert people to a fantastic piece from Scotland's Coefficient, who people will know from Twitter, who's the voice of wisdom on all of these such things. 3,500 words explaining all of the different possibilities, the different paths Rangers could have in Europe. Because obviously, technically, if they were to lose their first two rounds, they would still have to play another qualifier. They enter at the second round this year instead of the third. So lots of different complications, which are explained in depth on the website. But I will also divert to Scotland's Coefficient, a tweet he put out yesterday about these three opponents. He says Athens will be roasting. Panathinaikos finished second ahead of PAOK or PAOK and AAK Athens. Brann finished second in their league last season, currently sitting second. And I think this is quite important. They'll be 16 games into their season ahead of Bodo Glimt and Rosenborg in the league table. Bodo Glimt, who obviously reached the Europa League semi-finals last season. This would be Rangers' first game of the season. Will be Rangers' first game of the season up against potentially Brann in their 16th. And Servette, who, as you mentioned, Rangers played a couple of years ago. They finished second ahead of Young Boys in Switzerland. Probably be the most winnable of ties. So it's a difficult group all in. And one of the things that the piece over the weekend explains is Rangers have had a brilliant coefficient rating consistently, but because of a few different factors which are explained at length, they have got a pretty difficult tie. And Servette was actually pretty difficult last time round. I was out at the away game, Derek, and then the home tie Rangers, Sam Lammers, should have made it 3-0, I think, shouldn't he? He missed I think it was at 2-0 up. He missed a kind of an open goal, for want of a better word. I think Cyril Desser's got his first Rangers goal that night, and they scored a penalty too. But then away from home, Servette went 1-0 up. And I remember being over there and people are saying they haven't sold out the stadium since it opened in like 2003 or 4. But you wouldn't have known it that night because it was really noisy and loud and difficult. And it was only a James Tavernier goal in the second half, I think, that gave Rangers the extra goal in the night to take them through. So probably Servette. Panathinaikos, I think that heat would be so difficult. And then Brann, the difficulty is this Rangers team are not, I don't think, that ready in terms of the individuals. They'll only be a few weeks into their pre-season, only a couple of weeks with internationals back. That would be really tricky too. I don't know if you disagree on Servette, but that seems the most passable outcome to me.
Yeah, I've got concerns. I would like Rangers to negotiate this round. If they can get past this, then it makes life a bit easier. In terms of just qualify, I think I would be surprised if they got to the Champions League group stage. I've got to say, I think that's beyond Rangers. I think if they just get past this draw, it makes it easier to get into the Europa, which I think is more realistic. But they're not teams that you would be scared to death about facing, but given that the changes that are taking foot at the moment, given that the other teams you touched on there, Bran, well into their season, I think they play on a plastic pitch as well, all this sort of stuff. It's going to be tricky for Rangers to get past this stage, and then some of the teams you could face after that. Let's just get past round one. Round two is where Rangers enter, and then take it from there, I guess. But it's going to be really difficult. We'll touch on the squad as well. Your squad chart yesterday, Joshua, certainly created a lot of debate online. Fair to say folk are a tad concerned about that squad taking on Champions League potential opponents. So we'll touch on that in a wee while. 11 a.m. incident. A lot of people asking when the draw is. 11 a.m. There is a lot of faffing around as UEFA like to do at these draws. But as soon as we find out the opponents, we'll pop it on our social media accounts and the website and all that sort of stuff. But I echo that point that Joshua says. Great piece on the website on Rangers' potential path, opponents, coefficients, all that sort of stuff. Do go and check it out if you get a spare. We will. It is a mammoth piece, but a great feature.
Coffee.
Yes.
There, I have one more Champions League point before, while hating to interrupt you. I think one of the things that people should keep an eye out, or it's going to be intriguing to see, is Russell Martin is going to try and implement a certain style of play. And we've spoken about that quite a lot. I think domestically, the kind of whole build-up issue won't be too bad because Rangers aren't going to be pressed that aggressively, but there will be some teething issues. In the media day he had a couple of weeks ago now, I think, maybe just under that, he referenced the fact that, effectively I'm paraphrasing, but we're going to focus on the opponent less and focus on ourselves more. And the general sentiment, I saw a lot of tweets about it, is Rangers Thursdays might suffer for a bit, but Rangers Saturdays, which have been terrible for a long time, might be a bit better. The other complication with getting through these qualifiers is if Rangers are going away to Bran or Panathinaikos in that heat, and maybe not adapting or not playing the type of European transitional game that they have, that hasn't helped them domestically, but has helped them in European competition. I just wonder to what effect that impacts things. Maybe we see Martin compromise a little bit. I think that would probably be wise, but from what we've heard of him so far, I think he will be quite dogmatic. And while that probably benefits you in the long term, doesn't make it more difficult in the short term, because that's not the approach that we've seen Rangers take to European football in the last number of years, really.
Absolutely. Let's move on then, because the news yesterday, you will have seen, Lyall Cameron's move to Rangers has been completed. He signed, of course, he agreed that pre-contract earlier on in the season, and he's been speaking to Rangers TV. I'll read you some of the main headlines from that. It says, earlier in the season, I was asked if I'd like to play for a club like Rangers, and I said, yeah. I got a bit of slack for that at the time, but I just felt like playing for a club like this is a dream come true, and I just can't wait to get started. I definitely think this can push me on to the next level. It's a big change moving through here. I've always lived at home, so that is going to be a big change for me. There are a lot more games, a lot bigger expectations. It will be a massive change for me, and I'll need to learn to deal with that. It's obviously amazing to walk in the door. It's a privilege, and I've been waiting for this for a long time. It was announced quite a while ago, so I've been playing with it in the back of my mind for a couple of months. But just to be here now in the building is amazing. It wasn't easy the last couple of months. The expectations change when you sign for a club like this. So I think people expected a lot more from me, and I went through a spell where I wasn't playing my best football. Once I got over that and I started playing better again, and thankfully in the end, it was just enough to help Dundee stay up. You can read everything you had to say over on the website, folks. It did say it was a no-brainer as soon as Rangers' interest came up. So yeah, Lyall Cameron is in the door. Joshua, I'm excited about seeing this boy. I think he was a real standout for Dundee last season, as he touches on there quite rightly. It is a step up from Dundee. How much of a role he'll play in a Russell Martin team remains to be seen. But I've just got a sneaky feeling he might surprise a few, and he might have quite a big contribution to the campaign next season. What do you make of Lyall Cameron?
It's 14 goals and 9 assists. That was across all competitions. It wasn't just the league, but pretty good for a struggling Dundee team. I had a really interesting conversation for a piece that's going to be on the website soon with Tony Docherty, who coached him for 2 seasons and was his manager. So no one knows Lyall Cameron's game better than him, and can offer some really interesting insight as to his development. One of the, if we're talking about kind of off the pitch for a second, one of the things that was referenced in that interview is it was difficult for him at Dundee because of the position they were in, because of the connotations of moving to Rangers, to kind of shoulder that, and it maybe impacted his form for a little bit. But the way he responded by effectively being one of the key players who kept Dundee up, had a really good end to the season, scored quite a few goals around that time. I think that's a good sign, and probably demonstrates someone who can make that step up to Rangers. It's going to be totally different. He says that himself in the interview. It's on I think it's on the Rangers YouTube channel, moving away from home for the first time. It is just it's a completely different level to Dundee. But you need to, if that squad graph we put out, Derek, which was met with much.
I'll bring it up shortly, yeah. But
okay.
Yeah,
oh, exciting! Look away now. But the Rangers need to strengthen their squad as much as anything, and part of the conversation we've had quite a lot, Derek, about why have transfers been slow. Rangers pivot in a lot of their targets. The risk and reward of that, because you don't have long until Champions League qualifiers, and even getting to the final stage of to the playoff round is a big financial benefit. But also the argument is, can the likes of Lyall Cameron or Josh Mulligan, which is a move that, as we said with Cameron Burgess over the weekend, don't anticipate that to happen. Burgess has obviously now went to Swansea. It's about, I think, trying to improve that squad too. Cameron, is he going to be your best midfielder next season, your most important midfielder? Arguably not, but it's low risk, it's low cost. He knows the Scottish Premiership, and it's a type of signing. For me, it's the type of signing Rangers haven't made enough. And I think if you make 4 or 5 of these signings, then maybe you have a couple that don't work, but you get one Lewis Ferguson or one Picky or someone of that description.
I wish.
Yeah, but you know, people probably at the time thought they should go for certain targets, and that was certainly part of the rhetoric at the time. But you take my point. It's not as if you're going and spending a huge transfer fee and making this player one of your top earners. I guess the hope and argument, as he himself said, would be if you're playing with more of the ball, playing in a possession-dominant team, then those numbers should go up kind of per 90. I think it makes sense, and he becomes a first signing of the season, doesn't he? Or something.
Yeah, I think everyone, all Rangers fans, like to see new signings, but I think there's something a little bit different when you see a Scottish boy coming in. I think that just don't prefer that. Yeah, fans want to see more Scots in that squad. Who have you got at the moment? Suter, Kelly, Barron.
I think that's it. Is it?
Yeah.
No, there must be more. There must be more.
Get
the squad graph up. Get the squad graph up.
That is a good point to bring the squad graph up. So here we go. This is Rangers squad as it currently stands. So, and it's all its glory. So there you go. So you've got the goalkeepers there, 4 goalies: Butland, Kelly. There's a couple of names. Ridden, Maguire's down there.
Maguire.
Yeah. You get Tav, Sterling. King is there. Whether he's, I would be surprised if he's part of the squad next season. Suter, King, Proper, Enciala, Davis, Jefte, Ridvan, Robbie Fraser. There you go. There's another one. Diamande, Barnes, Fuentes, Raskin, Rice. How could I forget Bailey Rice? Dear me. Bayrami, Cameron, McCausland, Dowell, Cortes, Curtis. Curtis is another one, of course. Matondo and Dessers, Igaman, and Danilo. There you go, Joshua. Of course, Cameron, the only new arrival in there. It's fair to say, where do we start with this? But work needs to be carried out pronto on that squad. We know that there are a lot of noise at the moment with regards to some players. We touched on Max Aarons yesterday. Kwame Poku is another one that Rangers have an interest in, of course, which would improve that squad, you'd like to think. But it needs a lot of improving.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work. And again, the argument is quite a lot of these players we know I've seen aren't going to do it at Rangers, so time is of the essence to move them on and bring in reinforcements. I think that squad needs, it needs a lot of signings, definitely upwards of 8. A couple of the positions that we've reported on, Kwame Poku and Max Aarons, both on that right side, would address certain positions. Something we've referenced before is the potential for James Tavernier, and obviously Dujon Sterling has done this before too. He's hopeful of being back around October time, we're led to believe, but both of those players can play at centre-back. Is that Tavernier's long-term future? If Max Aarons were to come in, there's some complications we're led to believe surrounding whether Bournemouth want to let him leave on loan or on a permanent basis. That's one to keep an eye on, which we are keeping an eye on too. But yeah, where do you start, Derek? I think you start with the fact that Rangers' initial plan this transfer window was to try and get a few more, this is going back a couple of months, squad signings in, like Mulligan, Burgess, Lyall Cameron comes into that too. Players who, of course, can contribute into the first team, but maybe aren't your big money arrivals. And then start to add a little bit more quality as time went on. Umar Kamara would probably fall into that bracket too. You need to do both now very quickly. And this is why, again, Chris, I think has had this on the website recently about Cyril Dessers, that there is interest from Greece. There's been no accepted bid at present. And obviously talk around Dessers' future is nothing new. But with all the contention and speculation and real interest in Hamza Gaman from France, you get to a position where who can you afford to let leave in the short term for these qualification games? We'll come on to speak about Oscar Cortes today, but until he puts a few runs of games together on the left-hand side, you're looking at really no outstanding wing options at the moment. Bayrami, who again, his future is up in the air, is your only real attacking option because Cameron's maybe more of number 8, can play further forward perhaps. We know about Nico Raskin and the interest in him. So you go right through it and you're looking at it with admittedly quite a lot of time until the season starts, but not until, the league season starts, but not until the Champions League qualifiers start. And there's not much certainty to build around, I would say, at the moment. And that's probably the difficulty of this window too.
Yes, lots of comments coming in. This is an interesting one. Just on, of course, you've shaped that squad in almost that 4-2-3-1 formation, if you like, even with the point says it. What formation is Russell Martin famous for? Will he stick or twist the tried and tested 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1? He played different formations, incidentally. When I had the Swansea boy on, he said never played with wingers at Swansea, just played with 2 10s, which is almost a Michael Beale formation, which I don't think would work a great deal. I think Rangers need width. Joshua, would you agree?
Yeah, but it was interesting when Martin was speaking about his football ideas, and it doesn't come down to like one formation. He says shapes and different things will change.
Yeah,
but it all came back to was it courage on the ball? He said bravery on the ball and intensity off it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I think if you're thinking about a style of play, because at the moment I don't know, in all honesty, what formation he'll play. I know roughly, as other people do, what we'll see generally, which is a high possession style. Something we'll cover more towards the start of the season is also what Rangers will do out of possession, because that's an important detail that we've not discussed much. And his Southampton team were one of the most aggressive pressers in the Championship when they went up. This is a team that should be aggressive off the ball too, play more in the opposition half. But I don't think it's so much about, is it a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, because part of the players he has will dictate that. Like that squad at the moment I would argue, can't really play with proper inverted fullbacks and who join up a sitting midfielder. I don't think there's a profiles for that, and it doesn't have width out wide on the wings.
So perhaps a little depend on recruitment. But I think it's more about the kind of core idea. And you see this with Guardiola, who's the core idea of he has this philosophy. Everything comes down to he wants to have the ball. But we've seen him in the last few years go from, at points, he's played 4 centre-halves across his defensive positions. A couple of years prior, he had the likes of Zinchenko or Delph at left back, converting into middle of the pitch. So I think you'll still see adaptability within the kind of shape of the team, but the core idea won't change that much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get your point. No, we won't really see a Russell Martin team until pre-season gets underway, and how he shapes up. He may be experimenting there as well. Who knows? Yeah. But of that graphic there, you're looking at it, and players that you'd be looking at moving on. There is a whole host of players there. I mean, defensively proper, as we know. He was having talks with Russell Martin, but FC20 very keen on re-signing their former captain. Ben Davies has returned. Will Russell Martin want to see him in action, give him another opportunity? John Suter, is his contract situation wrangling on at the moment? Jefte Ridvan, who by all accounts, every single transfer window is linked with a move back to his homeland. But I think he's come out and said he's looking to stay at Rangers and fight for his place. He seems to say this every single time there's speculation with regards to Ridvan. But he and Dujon Sterling in the same bracket for me. You cannot rely on them. They're too injury prone, unfortunately. Robbie Fraser is there. He'll be looking to try and impress and play more games. And then you go into the midfield, of course. You've got Barton, who I thought was decent last season. Cifuentes, who's come back. Said it to Chris yesterday at Adamat. I would be surprised if he forms part of the Rangers squad next season. But again, he might again fall into that bracket. You'd probably think that Russell Martin will have a chat with him, whether he sees him as part of the squad. Who knows? It's likely, I guess, that he'll move on to another club. Raskin and Rice, you'd ideally want both of them to stay. Bayrami, Sassuolo interest, of course, earlier on in the summer. He's been linked with a move away. Does he form part of the squad next season? Cameron's just in the door. McCausland's been linked with a move away. Dowell is another one, impressed last season on loan at Birmingham. Does he have a part to play next season? I would doubt it. And then Cortes, I would like to see more of. Matondo, he has to get out the door. Dessers, you touched on there, has got interest in Greece. Egerman has got interest. Danilo, jury very much out. And Oscar Cortes there as well, which links us nicely to a piece you've got on the website this morning, Joshua, on Oscar Cortes. He's come back early. He's looking to really show what he is all about. He's another one that's a bit of a blank slate, if you like, for Oscar Cortes. We haven't really seen anything from him to justify the outlay, but you'd like to think, or hope, that Russell Martin can try and get a tune out of this boy.
Yeah, it was a full squad audit in one breath.
There you go.
Very professional. We can come back to a few of those different talking points, but on Cortes, there's a piece on the website today. Part of the detail in that is that he's come back early from his break to report early for pre-season at some point this week. The first batch of players aren't due back till next Monday, and internationals after that. Cortes has now been fit since February or March, and this is the longest period of time he's been fit since basically February or March before, when he initially had that hamstring surgery after the game at Kilmarnock. We heard on a couple of occasions Barry Ferguson speak about Cortes in training and in effect, reading between the lines, suggesting that he wasn't doing enough there in order to earn a place in his team. Ferguson also changed that kind of diamond shape at the end, so he wasn't really playing without wingers. But it is a clean slate, and he's had horrendous luck, and we delve into this a little bit in the piece, some of the circumstances around it. Coming back, and you remember the opening day last season, Derek, he went down, had a collision, he tried to play on when he probably should have come off. He was injured in training at one point. There's been complications surrounding the knee of led to believe of the leg he had surgery on, and just a lot of frustrating knockbacks. Part of the reason that Rangers invested in him this time last year was because that was his first injury. And you can look back and say hamstring surgery, that's a risky maneuver, but it also happens, but Kai Saka, it's happened to him as of late, and it doesn't mean it's the end of a player's career. he was initially on the club's radar, I think, as early as 2023, when he was kind of the standout player at the South American Under-20 World Cup. And at that point, he was one of, if not the most exciting players in that bracket, or in the call-up for Colombia when he was 20 years old. So it's not as if, I totally agree with you, we've not seen, since those first few months, he played about 300 minutes last season. We've not seen anything in so long. And when you're investing money in a squad like this, as we can see in front of us, you need to get it right generally when you're spending heavily. There's also risks in going to new markets, and across Cortes, Igaman, Jefte and Ciala, Rangers will make more money than they've spent on those 4 players. But it's going to be intriguing to see if Cortes can get a run together, because Martin needs wingers, Derek. He really needs wingers. I mean, Matondo's not going to be able to contribute. We know about his injury issues. He's into the final year of his deal. Cortes, there's been some noises over a potential loan move later in the window. McCausland has 2 years left in his contract and he needs to play. Kieran Dowell, we've seen it before and it's not worked at Rangers. So he's really your only long-term option at the moment, I would say, in those wide positions. And Nico Raskin wasn't in a completely dissimilar situation this time last year. We'd seen more of him at the start, but it's easy to forget that when he got injured against Ajax and when he was on the bench for a number of weeks, when he was hooked against Hibs at half-time, didn't look like he had a future, didn't look like he could stay fit. So, interested to see what happens with that particular kind of narrative over the course of the season. But he needs 5, 6, 7 games where he doesn't go down, because there was so many false dawns last season, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be risking him on plastic surfaces, artificial grounds. I don't think that would be wise. But there you go. Lots of comments coming in just off the back of that. I love this. Good friend of the show says, Derek with the Eminem impression reading that squad out. Dean Henderson says, we'll be mentioning this team graphic to my good luck with that, Dean. So it will change, of course. It won't look like that when the season starts, but the season starts soon. Rangers' biggest game of the season is merely over 4 weeks away, when that Champions League first leg of the second qualifier takes place, and it will be here before you know it. The 22nd and 23rd of July, Rangers will be away from home to begin with, I believe, aren't they? Because they are seeded for the first round, and then the following round the week after. In between those Champions League qualifiers, of course, Rangers do have a pre-season friendly at Ibrox. The Middlesbrough match will be at Ibrox 2 p.m. on the Sunday. So they've sandwiched that game in between the 2 qualifiers. So I think getting the more games, the better, with regards to Russell Martin getting this team well tuned to and well versed with how he wants to play. So said it to Chris yesterday, Joshua, fans are asking, is there going to be any more pre-season matches? I think it would be a good thing if Rangers can get another match or matches scheduled in between the schedule. Would you reckon?
Yeah, I think there will be, and again, it's just part of the fact that this season has been not off to a head start, should we say? And spoke about this on Monday. I think there's some criticism due for that, because the last few months of last season, I don't think we're really spent preparing for this season on a number of fronts. Also, there's some understanding because literally so much has changed. But there's only been 2 announced at this stage. I can't even remember off the top of my head. There'll be a couple more, I'm sure of that. Yeah. There's also other topics we've not even covered. James Tavernier's testimonial year, isn't it? Summer.
Well, that's going to happen. What's happening with that? That is radio silence with regards to that at this moment in time.
Yeah, and not a lot of murmurings about it at the moment. So lots to. It's going to be. We keep saying this, but it is going to be a busy couple of months until the season gets going.
Yep. A few comments coming in. First of all, Bluebells Are Blue says he's gifted 5 Rangers Review memberships. Fantastic, buddy. Thank you for that. That is very kind of you. Brilliant generosity there. Paul Sinclair says, hello guys from Bali, Indonesia, with the Sanur Loyal. Can I get a shout out? Absolutely, Paul. big up to all the guys out there in Indonesia, fantastic part of the world. I mentioned yesterday as well, Morris got in touch. He's over there in Spain, and he went to the Rangers bar. Bar none has been visited. Can't beat a cold tenants in the sun. That's good stuff, Morris. I called it Benalmadena yesterday. I was corrected. Benalmadena is the correct pronunciation of that lovely little town over in Spain. You been there, Joshua?
No, where is it? Tenerife?
No, it's Spain.
No.
It's near Malaga. It's just outside of Malaga, just on the seaside. A lovely part of the world. If you like your sun and your cold beers, then I would recommend a trip out there. So there you go. Right, we'll wrap up there. Big thank you to Joshua, as ever. And thank you to you all for tuning in to the show. It's greatly appreciated. Just a heads up, as if you missed the top of the programme, the Champions League draw takes place in a little under an hour's time. Rangers will find out who they'll face, either Panathinaikos, Servette or Brann. And if you're out and about, then keep your eyes on your phone, folks. Look up the social media channels and we'll let you know as soon as we hear. Right. Let's call it a day there. Just incidentally, but if you haven't caught it yet, I spoke to a Peterborough podcaster. It was Ashley. He was excellent. He talked about Rangers target Kwame Poku. So he gave us a bit of insight into him. Hopefully speaking to someone on Max Aarons as well, just to get an idea of what we can expect if he is to pitch up at Rangers. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That should be out a little bit later on, folks. But if we don't speak to you, enjoy your Wednesday. Bye for now.